So here's the thing. One fast food meal sent me to the hospital, but it really wasn't the fast food that almost cost me my life. It was the way I had been living. So at the time, I was recently divorced. I was in my early 30s and I was raising a child by myself. I had moved 25 miles away from my family, from my system that supported me. And 25 miles isn't that far, right? But it felt like it. It felt like it. And so I was busy learning a new route to work. I was busy setting up a new home. I was busy making sure that my child had everything that he needed. And in the midst of all that, I was tired. I was working full time and I was doing the thing that was easy. So my child was hungry. I hadn't cooked anything. I stopped at a fast food joint and got a meal. Ate the meal, got my kid home, and was doing laundry actually. And I felt something in my heart. It was a heaviness. Um, and then this is probably too much information, but I started belching, right? Because I was like, it's just a little, gas from that fast food that I ate. It'll go away. So I continued to wash, checking in on homework, doing all the things that you need to do, right? And I woke up the next morning and it was worse. It was worse. So I have a family doctor um, who actually delivered my son. Um, and he knew my history, and I liked him because not only did he do traditional medicine, but he also did some alternative medicine, and he had studied a little bit in the East. So I called him and I said, here's the issue. I think it's gas that's just stuck around my heart. What should I do? And he said, you're probably not having a heart attack or anything, but you could have an infection around your heart. So I need you to go to emergency. Well, guess what? I did not go to emergency. I was like, oh, that's a little much. I'm busy. I've got stuff to do. Just let me go to the pharmacy and get some anti gas pills, right? And so I went to the pharmacist to ask him what type of pills I should get. And he looked me dead in the face and he said, ma'am, if you are having pressure around your heart, you need to go to emergency. Stubborn. I blew that off, right? And went to the aisle that had all of the anti gas medication. And I just chose something. I've even forgotten what it was that I chose, and I took that. And still didn't work, right? Um, Going back in my memory now, I think I may have called my doctor after I took the gas X, and that's when he told me you're probably not having a heart attack. It probably is just indigestion or something, but you could have that infection around your heart. So I need you. If this doesn't work, and I think he gave me a time frame, like if this doesn't work in the next 4 hours, and don't quote me on that because I don't remember the actual time that he gave me. He said you need to go to emergency. Guess what? I still did not go to the emergency room. I went to my local clinic, right? It was down the street from my house. I was like, I'll just let them test me. So I got there. They asked me a bunch of questions, as they often do, and wound up giving me an EKG. So I had all of these patches, everywhere that they put them. I tried to calm myself, and they did this EKG. Had to wait for the results, and the results came back, and they said there is an inconsistency in your EKG. I don't know if I had a baseline at that point, and they said, "We're sending you to the emergency room." So I wound up in the emergency room anyway. I think they took X-rays, and then they did a blood gas test. I don't know if any of you have ever had that done, but it is painful, or at least it was painful to me. And in that moment, I realized I needed to change some things in my life because I would not make a good patient. I just would not. Didn't like what was going on. I had a bad attitude. I'm normally a very cheerful person. We're going to get through this. I think I was, no, I don't think I was. I was by myself. Um, I think my son was old enough to be at home, but I was still, of course, concerned about him while being in the hospital, praying I wasn't going to be admitted. Um, Again, waited for those test results to come through, and they gave me some kind of diagnosis. It wasn't a heart attack, but it was some kind of, oh, I feel like I'm going to really mess this up, esophageal or something like that, something with the esophagus, right? And so they put me on medication right away. So I got home, and really started thinking about my health. I was overweight at the time, not overly overweight, right? I was one of those people that always carried my weight well. Yeah, I remember that. Uh, Maybe they called me big boned. I don't know about big boned, but I carried my weight well, right? And so I started taking the medication. I remember when I would bend over, I would still feel that pressure for a couple more days. But I decided that I needed to live my life better. I needed to make some serious changes. And typically when that happens in our lives, there have been things, messages, or even conversations that you have that kind of lead up and kind of confirm, what you're being told. For me, I am a praying person, so I prayed, and the results that I got back from that prayer was that I needed to be more consistent with exercise and diet, right? That's the key, right? Exercise and diet. We always want to try these new different things, but really it's all about exercise and diet. And then something happened on like that fourth day of taking that initial medication. I started getting messages from the pharmacy, from different pharmacies, because they wanted my business because they were like, you're going to be on this medication for the rest of your life. And I think that was really the moment where I was like, no, sir, no, ma'am, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. So again, we need to be cognizant of conversations that we're having, things that come into alignment in our lives. And so I was working with the client, and she was telling me about this power yoga class that she was taking and how wonderful it was, and how she sweat. So now I'm on this journey. I've got to get healthier. I need to drop some pounds. I need to eat better. And when she said I would sweat, that was out of my realm of understanding of what yoga was. I don't know what I thought yoga was at that time. I mean, we're talking many years ago at this point, right? And so I was intrigued. And so she invited me to come to a class with her, and I did. And I will tell you that I probably didn't lose an ounce after taking that class, but I felt so much better. I felt calmer. I felt more at peace. I felt inspired to do better. And so I continued to go to that class. And it has served me so well, eventually becoming a yoga teacher and coach, a mindfulness and meditation coach. somatic educator. All of those things have just continued to bless me in so many ways. I tell people all the time because it's the consistency, right? That I tricked myself into being consistent because I became a teacher. So the teacher has to show up, right? So my body knew something that I wasn't willing to accept on that day that I ate that fast food meal and wound up in the hospital. Um, I think I already knew that my body speaks before it screams, and it was screaming at that point because, again, I had been getting those messages. And so it's so important for us to not forget to remember what we already know. What we already know is that our breath always knows that it's going to calm us, right? By just taking 3 conscious deep breaths, we can begin to calm down. We can begin to get into the rest and digest mode, the parasympathetic mode of our nervous systems, right? We can already do that. So, what have you always known about yourself that you have forgotten that would be helpful to your journey, helpful to your process? Try to think about mm, what have I always known about myself, but life has caused me to forget it? And just whatever pops up. Maybe you need to journal about it. I'm a big fan of journaling. Maybe you just need to sit with that question because I think it's time for us to figure out what we're good at, where our gifts are, so that we can use those to help one another, to help ourselves, to help our communities. So don't forget to remember what you already know. My name is Gail Hutchison, and I'm here to help you find ease and to find your purpose. Day one. Yay, yay, yay. Now I got to figure out how to stop this.